Hey, this is Marissa from Attio. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can import your CSV data into objects in Attio. In this example, we'll walk through migrating from an existing CRM from which we've exported two CSVs, one for the companies with which we've interacted and another for our deal pipeline. Some of the companies in my CSV already exist in Attio, since they were automatically created when I sync my mailbox. I want to update these records with more details and then also add some new companies that aren't in Attio yet. Here is our CSV for companies. We have company name, their company website, their status as a prospect or a customer, the date that they first became a customer, and their location. There are specific formatting requirements for certain data types. For example, dates and timestamps need to be ISO standard, European or American format. Phone numbers must include the country code, and then city, state, and country can all be imported into Attio, but the values need to be held within one column in your spreadsheet. For a full breakdown of formatting, take a look at our formatting guide in the Help Center. For each object type referenced in your file, it's crucial that you map one of the columns in your file to a unique attribute for that object. For each row in your file, Attio will take a look for an existing record with the value that you've provided. If a matching record exists, it will update that record, but if there is no matching record based on this attribute, the importer will create a new record. If you don't include a unique attribute in your file at all, then Attio will create new records for every single row in that file. To update company records in Attio and to prevent duplicates, you must map one of your file columns to Attio's domain attribute. Otherwise, the import will create a new company record for every single row in your file, even if the company names match companies that exist in Attio. Now, let's walk through the import process into Attio. I'll go to the company's object, click Import and Export, select Import CSV, and then choose my CSV file. With the file in Attio, the next step is to map the data. On the left-hand side here, we have the columns from the CSV file, and on the right-hand side, I have the Attio attributes, which in this case are from the company's object. Attio will match your columns and attributes where possible. As I mentioned before, it's critical that I've mapped my website column to the company domains attribute. For each column in my file, I'll map it to the appropriate Attio attribute. In this case, I don't have an attribute yet for the date that they became a customer, so I'll create that as a new attribute on my company object here. Next, here we can review the values in our file. Any issues will be flagged with orange dots, but Attio hasn't hit any issues with this particular file. Now that's all been reviewed, let's click Continue to generate a preview of the data before we finalize the import. Up here you can see how many records will be created or updated. You should take a look at these numbers as well as the preview of the data that will be imported to make sure that everything looks as it's expected to. When I start the import, Attio will track the progress for me. At this point, you can navigate away from the page if you don't want to wait for the import to continue, and you can track the progress in Workspace Settings under Import History. Now, if your import or specific rows in the import have failed, you would receive a warning sign here. And if you hover over it, you'll be able to see the error message. We have an article on our Help Center running through the different error messages and how to troubleshoot them. Now that I've loaded my companies into Attio, I can move on to my deals. Unlike my company's import, where I was updating some records that already existed in Attio and creating others, I'll only be creating new deals in this import. It is possible to update deals in Attio using its unique identifier, which is the Attio record ID, but since I'm creating these for the first time, no record ID exists yet. This is a rare occasion where I don't need to map a column in my CSV to a unique attribute on my Attio object. Importing deals introduces us to two new concepts. We have required attributes and relationships. You can find out on our Help Center which attributes are required on the standard objects, and then for any custom objects that you've created yourself or any lists that you're using, you can navigate to your settings to see this information. Deal name, stage, and owner are all required attributes in the Attio deal object, meaning they must have a value in order to create a record. So I've included it on my file here, and every row has a value. In Attio, the information about associations between objects, such as a deal being associated with a company, is stored in a special attribute type called a relationship attribute. In order to upload the relationship between deals and companies in my CSV, we need to supply the unique identifier for the company, which is its domain. For any object referenced in your file, it's crucial that you map one of the columns to the unique attribute for that object. So for example, if I also wanted to upload a relationship to a deal's primary contact and associate that with a person's record in Attio, then I would need to provide an email address and map that to the associated person's email address attribute. To bring all of these concepts together in one example, let's walk through importing our deals. So this time on the deals object, I will navigate to the importer. And as before, the first step is to map my CSV columns to attributes in Attio. For the company column, you can see that we're selecting the associated company relationship attribute and mapping to the company domain. Again, I'll just double check that Attio correctly guessed the rest of my mappings and that I've included the required name, stage, and owner attributes. In the review step, you'll notice these little orange circles. These are warning signs that are letting me know that values are being flagged. So let's take a look and see what errors there are with our stages. One of the stages I'm trying to import doesn't exist in Attio. From here, I can either select an existing stage to reassign it to, or I can click up here and add it in as a stage. This one is just a typo, so I'm going to select the correct stage instead. Now that's all been reviewed, let's click Continue to generate a preview of the data before we finalize the import. In the review step, I can see that all of my deals are net new and being created. I can also check that the companies I've included were successfully mapped to existing companies in Attio. All of the companies already exist, so none will be created. Reviewing the final result of this import, let's look at a sample deal record. I can see the attribute values were uploaded, and if I right-click on any of these values, I can see exactly when they were created or updated. And now if I look at the associated company attribute, I can click through to review the company record as well. So that's an overview of how to import CSV data into objects in Attio. We have a separate tutorial on how to import into lists, and you can view our full guides, including formatting and troubleshooting, in the Help Center.